Angeles. That's where Paul Verkaman is. And Paul, obviously a very big group gathered where you are. Where exactly are these protesters tonight?
Okay, I'll set the scene for you, Poppy. It's a little hectic. This is literally LA City Hall, and they are on the steps of City Hall. And they set up here quite a few different protests merged throughout the course of the night. And since you even were speaking with me, it seems like it grew to another, I'd say maybe 1,000, 1,200 protesters. You can see they are not only on the steps of City Hall, but there's one protester who climbed on top of this light signal, and he's holding up what is a common sentiment here, which is "Not my president." We've heard that said and chanted over and over tonight, and also right in front of me they're chanting "Not my president." It has been a peaceful protest. We've not seen any fights or any arrests, and the Los Angeles Police Department has taken a rather, we'll call it California laid-back approach.
Boo, you people.
Do what they want.
Boo. Donald Trump.
They shut down the street right
But
in front of City
people
Hall,
are
and
like,
they shut down other
boo.
streets and some of the traffic tonight. And again, I'll just let you listen to them chant for a moment here, Poppy. All right, Poppy, you can try to venture a question at me. I'm not guaranteeing that I'll be able to hear it. But as I said before, it has been peaceful here on the streets of Los Angeles. I'm going to toss it back to you, Lieutenant Hammond.
All right, Paul Verkaman, thank you very much. On the other side of your screen, you're looking at other live pictures. Guys, let's pull that back up out of Los Angeles tonight. There's the other side of your screen from where Paul Verkaman is. Looks like a number of protesters going into the highway there. That shot from the helicopter of KCAL and KCBS. Not sure what highway it is. We'll get more information for you as soon as we can. As we watch all of this unfold across the country tonight, we remember what President Obama said yesterday in the Rose Garden. Quote, "No matter what happens, the sun will rise." And today, when the sun comes up, we are going to get our first pictures of Donald Trump at his future home at the White House. He will be there today to meet with President Obama. Let's bring in our Sunlen Serfati. She's in Washington, where this extraordinary meeting will happen just hours from now. Sunlen, what have we learned about what the president will say? Because when you think about this, it is extraordinary to think that the president, sitting president, will share the Oval Office with the president-elect, a man who has made much of his political brand by questioning whether the current president, President Obama, was born in the United States.
That's absolutely right, Poppy. To say that they have had a rocky relationship would just be an understatement. Not only because of Donald Trump's role in the birther movement, but keep in mind President Obama has been one of Donald Trump's chief critics over the last year as well. This will be the first real meeting that the two will actually have. The last time they were in a room together was 3 years ago at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You remember then, President Obama took aim at Donald Trump from the podium, made him the brunt of a joke. Now, that said, White House officials do admit that this is going to be a challenging meeting for him. They say it won't be an easy meeting, but they say President Obama is very sincere about making sure this is a smooth transition of power, and that in a large part starts today with the tone of their meeting, something that President Obama spoke briefly about yesterday in the Rose Garden.
Now, it is no secret that the president-elect and I have some pretty significant differences. But remember, 8 years ago, President Bush and I had some pretty significant differences. But President Bush's team could not have been more professional or more gracious in making sure we had a smooth transition so that we could hit the ground running. And one thing you realize quickly in this job is that the presidency and the vice presidency is bigger than any of us. So I have instructed my team to follow the example that President Bush's team set 8 years ago and work as hard as we can to make sure that this is a successful transition for the president-elect.
Now, Melania Trump will also be meeting with First Lady Michelle Obama and the White House residence. That's a private meeting. And Trump and Pence here in D.C. today will have a slew of other meetings as well. Pence will meet with Vice President Biden. He'll also sit down with congressional leadership. An interesting schedule later in the day. Trump and Pence later this afternoon. Poppy will meet with Paul Ryan. So a slew of very important meetings. Transition starting right now. Poppy.
Yeah, we heard the words from Paul Ryan today. basically saying what Donald Trump pulled off, the most stunning political feat he has ever witnessed, talking about how much he believes that he as the Speaker and Congress will get done together with the President-elect. Before I let you go, you know, Donald Trump now, as President-elect, is already getting briefings, right? Daily briefings of the country's most important intelligence. What can you tell us?
That's right. This is something that President Obama, the White House, announced yesterday, that he would extend the same presidential daily briefings to Donald Trump. This is something that starts the president's day every morning. Oftentimes you see the vice president there as well, giving them a rundown of intelligence, national security issues, everything that's going on. So this was a courtesy that President Obama extended to Donald Trump. So if he wants those daily briefings, the White House is making that available to him. Poppy.
Sutherland live for us in DC. Thank you so much. And just for our viewers, again, this is the 101. This is a major thoroughfare in Los Angeles. Part of it appearing to be, from my vantage point, shut down by protesters tonight. It is 10:30 p.m. live in Los Angeles. You're looking at the 101, a major highway in Los Angeles, blocked, part of it at least, by protesters tonight. As we continue to monitor these protests across the country, Donald Trump is not turning to the same crowd of Washington insiders, it appears, to help him make cabinet selections. Instead, Trump, a billionaire businessman, may look to the private sector to fill certain spots and may frankly go to very established politicians to fill others. Let's bring back in our panel Trump supporter Andre Bauer, former Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, and Alice Stewart, Republican strategist, former Ted Cruz communications director, and a Trump supporter. Thank you, guys. Transition happens immediately. There's a lot of work to do in the next 70 days. Andre, let's talk first about the position of Treasury Secretary. When you look at some of the names being floated out there right now, Carl Icahn is a big investor, activist investor, who's been a huge supporter of Trump. His name's being floated. Steve Mnuchin, former Goldman Sachs, and a supporter. Do you think those are likely Treasury Secretary names?
You know, I hope that it's hard for them to take the pay cut, but I hope they'll see, you know, an opportunity to make their country better, stronger, and greater with using some of their talents, and they'll answer the call for their country.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carl Icahn has said, at least previously, that he's not interested. But, I mean, who do you think makes sense for that spot? Because here you have a businessman, a billionaire businessman. Who does he think would be better than him, even, to be Treasury Secretary?
I'm hearing from different circles. Mnuchin's got a little bit of more of an interest himself, but also would do a great job. And I think it's good to have people that have experience out in the private sector, whether we're talking about Department of Defense or certainly with the economy, or whether we're talking about Surgeon General, those types of positions, for people to have actually real world experience as opposed to those that have been in politics.
You ran Ted Cruz's communications. Obviously, there was no love lost between the two for a long time, but Ted Cruz did come around and endorsed him. Would he want any sort of role in a Trump administration at any point in time?
There's talk for a little while. Of course, Ted's an attorney, and there's talk about some kind of appointment. But Ted loves what he's doing. He loves being a senator in Texas. He's looking to run for re-election, and he loves serving the people of Texas. And who knows what the plan is come 2020. But he's keeping a close eye. One of the things that Ted is committed to doing is he has had conversations with Donald Trump, and he has expressed his interest in making sure that he does appoint conservatives to that position, and he suggested his good friend Senator Mike Lee from Utah. So he's keeping a close eye
on one of the lists, one of the two lists that Trump has put forward of potential justices. The Daily Beast out with a report tonight. Let me read you part of it. Team Trump didn't expect to win until the campaign's internal polling a month before the election signaled a possible victory. And now Team Trump is scrambling to fill senior-level national security jobs because so many Republicans swore they'd never work for Trump. Keep this in mind. There was that letter from more than 100 former national security leaders, Republicans, vowing never to support or work with Donald Trump. Also, former CIA and NSA director Michael Hayden called Trump a tool of the Russian government just a few weeks ago. Andre, how does Trump take those strained relations and work with people in the intelligence community? I mean, you had Omarosa, former apprentice contestant and a supporter of his, say today that he is keeping a long list of enemies. Well, if he does that there's no progress from doing that, right?
Well, I think the few immediate people he's around, Newt Gingrich, I can't think of anybody I admire more in politics than him. he's a level-headed guy that will work with him and show him how to get it done. And switching gears and meeting with the president tomorrow, I thought back to when President Obama and Hillary Clinton had such a divisive primary. And President Obama, you know, the faults I have with him, I do admire him in certain ways, and I think he'll heal that bridge really quickly as well.
That 2008 heated primary was not to the level that this general election was, nor was it to
I
the
think it was just, you go back to South Carolina, my home state, and it got very, very personal and very, very
Do you
nasty.
think it is to the level of, for example, Donald Trump questioning the legitimacy
Yes,
of the
because
first black
Hillary
president?
Clinton
Why?
folks did it in South Carolina in the primary way before Donald Trump ever touched
All right, we're
it.
not
And
going to
so-
relitigate that.
Well,
Of course,
it
public
happened in my
opinion,
home
I know the
state,
facts.
so I mean, I
All right.
remember it. But nonetheless, I think he was very humble, and he bridged that as he will
What
tomorrow with
about
Donald
Alice
Trump.
for Attorney General? Because here you've got Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York City, a huge surrogate for him, and Chris Christie, also an attorney, the first person of the 17 Republicans who were running to come and support Trump.
He was stellar out there early on. More and more, I'm hearing Rudy Giuliani, and I think that would be a great way to go. Certainly with his experience and the way New York really, embraced him after 9/11. He's got an ability to really bring people together, and he's got a tremendously great legal mind. I think Chris Christie, unfortunately, I think he's phenomenal, but he's going to have a few issues. Bridgegate on his way. To the point of all these military people that have come out saying they're not supportive. Donald Trump has Michael Flynn, who is on board, and I think what's going to happen...
He was in the running for the VP
Certainly,
slot.
I think there's a position for him at a high level. And what Trump did, I think, phenomenally, he had a lot of members of Congress throughout the primary that were not with him and not supportive. So what did he do? He got Mike Pence, who is beloved and very great about bringing people together.
He
got him
brought
to go out
Republicans home.
He got to bring people in. And I think Mike Flynn can do that with some of these military people.
Secretary of State,
Newt Gingrich.
no question. You know, I haven't heard any women named.
I haven't either.
Alice, when you look at the trouble that Donald Trump has had with women in terms of what he has said, etc., it didn't play out in the voting. The exit polls show that white women went for Trump by about 10 points, but we are in 2016. Should there be women in his cabinet?
Absolutely, and I also think there should be more African Americans. There was one list where we saw Ben Carson, which I think he would be phenomenal at some high-level positions. But certainly there needs to be. I think some of the names that are coming to the surface are just folks that are at the top of the mind. But I'm completely confident he's going to bring in women into these top-level positions, African Americans and Hispanics and all types of people to bring in different mindsets. Another person that is being talked about for some position possibly would be Reince Priebus.
He was very, he was very, very celebratory of the job that Reince Priebus did in his remarks last night. So much so that he brought him to the podium to speak.
Right.
Thank you guys very much.
And I'd say Mary Fallon, Governor of Oklahoma, I'd love to see her in the cabinet.
All right, guys, thank you very, very much. Again, you're looking at live protests out of Los Angeles tonight and Portland, Oregon. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment.
Who says I shouldn't have a soda every day? My doctor, my dentist, definitely my wife. Wait, I know what I want.
Make sparkling water at home and drink 42% more water every day. SodaStream. Love your water.
Commander, tell me about your wife.
Together, we assassinated the German ambassador. She's the mother of my child.
We believe she is a double agent. 72 hours, we shall know for sure.
You were different with me last night.
Look! See her!
If she is a spy, you must kill her.
Don't think I'm going to let me sleep.
Allied. Rated R.
You found your car on Cars.com.
I'm a robot.
Get it?
And found a place to service it, too. Now, when you're ready, you can sell your old car and find your new one, all on Cars.com. You know us for shopping, and now we're there for every turn. Cars.com.
You can count on all kinds of challenges when you have your own business. But thanks to Square, you can accept credit cards like this, and like this. You can count on clear pricing for every major credit card, because Square has no surprise fees. You get deposits as soon as the next business day, and easy-to-read sales reports to help you... But you shouldn't really have to, because they're... Count on it. Get started free at square.com.
Have fun with the
Brick and mortar. What?
When you bundle home and auto insurance, you get sneaky good coverage.
You have a vision, including special finishes and paint. And we have your card. 500 started just $9.
Vote now for the CNN Hero of the Year at CNNHeroes.com on Twitter and Facebook Messenger.
We feel a deep connection. As many as 30,000 for needless ivory trinkets explodes. Change. WWF is working around the world to address global threats to wildlife and their habitats, such as poaching and illegal ivory. And their habitats. To adopt now and receive a free adoption kit as our way of... Please help save them now.
New day, the most news of the morning at a special early time. Tomorrow, 5 Eastern on CNN.
You're looking at live pictures out of Los Angeles, protests throughout the country tonight in at least 7 different cities reacting to this election. You can hear those protesters in Dallas chanting earlier tonight, "Not my president." Dallas is not alone. We've also seen protests in New York, in Philadelphia, in Chicago, and Boston. Thousands of people on the streets of those cities tonight. In New York, protesters burnt in effigy the future president there, Donald Trump. That's from earlier tonight. We're told from NYPD at least 15 people have been arrested. Here in New York City, let's talk about all of this. With me, CNN senior media correspondent Brian Stelter, host of Reliable Sources. Also joining us, CNN political commentator and former Mitt Romney campaign policy director, Lonnie Chen. Brian, one thing that you said that struck me earlier is this is the only side we're seeing. People that protest the free and fair election of Donald Trump as the next president. We're not seeing the other half of the country who supported him, the more than 40 million people who supported him.
That's right. This is a very hopeful day for roughly half of the country. 50%, or you could at least say the 25% who explicitly voted for Trump. This is a joyous day, a very hopeful and optimistic day. But there's not cameras in those places because there are not parties and celebrations going on for the most part. We haven't seen that kind of spontaneous excitement. What we've seen instead here is this relatively spontaneous protest. We've seen it on college campuses as well this evening, small towns as well as big cities, but pretty much entirely in liberal areas with a few exceptions. I did think it was notable to see a protest in Dallas earlier this evening. And now, of course, concentrating on the West Coast, where even last night in Oakland, as the votes were still being counted, we were seeing street fires. Of course, Oakland, famous for its liberal protesting. But to see it in New York, to see it in Chicago, to see a pretty broad-based protest movement here, I do wonder if this is the start of something.
Let's dip in it as we keep talking. We're looking at live pictures of this is the 101 in Los Angeles. These are live pictures from the chopper of KCBS. And what it looks like is protesters, blocking off part of the 101. We're going to listen into the local broadcast.
Perimeter, and they're going to start closing in. I would be telling you that. Right now, though, all I'm hearing is that they're trying to get their guys out here in number and trying to lock it down because they know if they approach from one direction, this crowd's just going to run the other. They need to have those officers in those areas as well. This crowd right here is the one that they are looking at. They want to bring those officers down from LAPD to join the other officers on the freeway. Some of these guys right now sitting down. You can see them on the roadway. What this is all about, they don't like Trump. This is something that they should have taken care of in the democratic process earlier on. But this is South Los Angeles, and we do our things the way we do things out here. And right now, LAPD has been very lenient with the situation, very hands off, and allowing these protesters their Second Amendment to speak what they want to do, say what they want to say, take over streets, and they have been out here in numbers. Right now, though, it's starting to get to the point where when you start shutting down the traffic, you start getting civilians in harm's way, officers in harm's way out there. Nobody has been injured yet. But nevertheless, it's basically, I believe that this crowd crossed the line. We've been hearing Tom talk about it. It must be an experience in itself to be down there with these type of crowds running around. And that's the thing, it's mob mentality. When somebody starts running, everybody starts running. Nobody knows why. Amazing that nobody's been trampled. There have been no injuries to anybody that we know of as of yet. Right now, though, the crowd that was huge on the freeway, not so big. It is split up. Officers from the California Highway Patrol, LAPD, all out here right now. We are listening in, trying to really figure out what their plan is. They wanted to stop the movement of the group. They have done that, that's for sure. This small just sitting right there, not moving, sitting on the roadway, holding up their sign. Officers from the LAPD at this location, some California Highway Patrol surrounded over up on the top, more up to the north. And then you've got that group of officers right there basically formulating a plan. I believe that battalion is going to be used where needed. If something happens and they have people running, these guys will jump into action. Right now, though, it seems to be more of a waiting game and almost like chess. You're basically positioning your pieces on the board, trying to get in a way where you might be able to corral this huge crowd that's just been so unruly out here in the Los Angeles area.
All right, you were just listening in to our affiliate KCAL KCBS there, looking at live pictures of the 101 essentially shut down in part of Los Angeles, a major thoroughfare through the city. And this part of the 101 is right near downtown LA. Let me bring back in my panel Brian Stelter is with us, senior media correspondent Simone Sanders, who used to run communications for Bernie Sanders' team, now a Clinton supporter, is with us. And also in California, Lonnie Chen, who used to run policy for Mitt Romney. Simone, you wrote about this today. You wrote about millennial engagement and what your party needs to do to win next time. Many of the voices on the streets tonight are young voices. What should they hear from Donald Trump? What would you like to hear Donald Trump say as our next president?
Well, I need Donald Trump, one, to say I'm sorry, to say that I'm ready to come together and then give us his plan. I want to be very clear, President Obama, he's the president of the United States. It's his job to call for, we need to come together and do this. Secretary Clinton, it was her job to do that. Donald Trump, it's his job. For Senator Sanders, it's his job to do that. I have a base as an activist, and young people like myself, we don't have to stand up and say we just need to call for calm, because calm isn't what we need. Calm isn't how we got here, to be frank. Mm-hmm. So I think what we need here is a plan and real policy plans. So then we can begin to hold Donald Trump accountable. So what I've been saying from day one is, regardless, on November 9th, folks need to have a plan. Young people need to have a plan. And if it was Secretary Clinton, the plan is going to look a little bit different. But engagement and how you work with the next administration, the next Congress, is going to be pivotal. They can't govern, the next Congress, next president can't govern without black people, without Latinos, without Native Americans, Hispanics, and without white people for that matter, without young people. We are vital to the democracy of this country. And as you can see out there in the streets, and I'm feeling it right now.
Hillary Rosen, to you, in Washington, as a Hillary Clinton supporter, who in the Democratic Party do you think can reach out to these protesters right now and convey to them the same message, frankly, that we heard on Wednesday from both President Obama and from Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's words were, "We owe it to Donald Trump to give him a chance."
I don't think it's Hillary Clinton's responsibility to make people not fear whether or not they're going to be deported. That's Donald Trump's responsibility.
Right, I guess what I'm asking is there anyone in the Democratic Party who you think could jump in here and help as well? Obviously,
yeah. So I think the signals that Donald Trump sends. I think Simone is right. The signals that Donald Trump sends over the next couple of days are going to go a long way to determining whether or not people feel like they need to be afraid. I mean, that's what this is about. You know, people are worried about a rise in racism. They're worried about a rise in deportations. They're worried about a Supreme Court that's going to set us backwards. And they don't know how to manage that. And so I think from a law and order perspective, President Obama is going to be thoughtful and work with local law enforcement to make sure that people aren't hurt. But, you know, Donald Trump is going to have to make some of these decisions. If he puts Rudy Giuliani in as the Attorney General, or tries to get him confirmed, that's gonna, you know, that's just gonna inflame this more. This is a guy who has laughed at the sexual assault charges, who, you know, screamed at people's concerns about racism, who talked about deportation as the best thing for dealing with an immigration problem. So much of what he does over the next couple of days is going to be the strong signal to protesters and, frankly, Hillary Clinton supporters across the country as to whether he wants a united America or whether he is going to continue a divide.
Stay with me, guys. Let's listen back to our affiliate here in Los Angeles, see what they're describing playing out here on the 101 in LA.
CHP officers out there, Jeff. But, you know, at some point, they got to make sure that people's safety really isn't in danger. And that was what was happening starting about 30 minutes ago when people got back onto the freeway. As we mentioned, people did get on the freeway earlier this evening. The protesters got on the 110 freeway, both northbound and southbound lanes. That was stopped by the CHP at 3rd Street. Then they got back onto the streets of downtown Los Angeles, and they were protesting in the intersections there for a while. And then again, back on the freeway on the 101 at Alameda on the northbound and southbound lanes being affected by this evening. They were knocking over barrels of sand, people having confrontation with vehicles, and that's, of course, such a dangerous situation, especially, you know, when you have so many people out there trying to get through, and then you have these protesters who you don't know what's going to happen with them. You don't know what kind of mentality that they have. And, you know, you want to think that they're going to protest peacefully all night, but then this happened.
Yeah, well, that is no longer the case in downtown L.A. Let's update you with some social media. Of course, social media is such a big part of our news gathering now at this point in time. Of course, the election as well. This is from Matthew Barber. He posted this. It says, "The nightmare has begun." Hashtag not our president. The nightmare has begun. I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe they say that this is going to be extended protests as we head into the inauguration of the new president, Donald Trump. I mean, that's just you know, a few weeks away.
Right back with me is my panel as you're looking at these live pictures here of the 101. Part of it shut down near downtown Los Angeles, getting close to 11 p.m. there. Brian Stelter is with me. Your thoughts?
I think we need to recognize the context for these protesters, mostly young protesters, who are taking to these streets here in L.A., also in other cities. President Obama just days ago said to the country, "The fate of the republic rests on your shoulders." President Obama, Hillary Clinton, other Democratic leaders made this about the future of the nation. They made this about the fate of the republic. Donald Trump's words and actions are what caused them to do so, but the stakes were risen so incredibly high.
They did, and Josh Earnest, when he was asked about that today, Brian, as you know, said, you know, the president's words stand. It's a very important point.
So we can understand why these people speak out. I saw a sign tonight in New York that said, "I'm just sad." And that's one emotion, but there's a lot of other more passionate emotions out there.
And there's a lot of people who are very, very happy and thrilled with this outcome, and you're not seeing that play out in the streets of America.
Okay, I can't have this anymore, so I'm gonna
Reaction
go
to
now.
victory has been coming from around the world. With me now,